Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Uh, the talk of civil war continues, um, just like the talk of World War III continues, just like a lot of the issues going on in the country seem to be continuing. The most recent addition is Rep. Adam Kingsinger. I don't really know how to pronounce his last name. Uh, GOP rep. He's on the Jan 6 committee. Uh, he votes a lot of things Republican, but he also agrees a lot of things Democratic. So I can kind of like the guy, because he's going across the aisle. Um, Very few politicians on either side typically go across. A lot of our stuff is being voted on, um, party lines, uh, and so the worry coming out of politicians, out of intelligence agencies, is we're still continuing, this national drift apart. Um, both sides are making, arguments. The 2020 election, Trump said it was stolen, it was fraudulent. Uh, you know, he's right-leaning Republican. Biden saying the midterms are going to be fraudulent. He's left-leaning Democrat. Uh, and this has been a thing for the last 20, 30 years. It's only the last 8 or so years that I've really been old enough to understand it. But I can listen to history. I was like 4 or 5 when, it was a big issue with Bush and Al Gore, and Bush won the presidency by like 3,000 votes or something. Super tight race. I think it was Obama's second run. I forget which one. The one with McCain, it was pretty clear. But the one with Mitt Romney, it wasn't as clear. And then, the issue with, the 2016, between Hillary and Trump, and the same issue between Trump and Biden. And it's going to be the same issue, regardless of if it's Trump, DeSantis, Cruz, anyone with an R. It's polling like it's not going to be a 2-term, Democratic elected president, or not democratically. It's looking like the Republicans will continue, their congressional, victories into the presidency. And it's gotten to the point where it doesn't matter if you're right-leaning or left-leaning. If your person loses, the amount of anger and sadness and frustration coming out on both sides is astronomical. To the point of the news, intelligence agencies, all these different groups are starting to say we're already in a civil war. We're kind of in like that cold stage of it where you either don't want to believe we're in one. Some people would say it's not a civil war until, people start, firing at each other. And from a prepping standpoint, what a lot of people don't really realize, the last civil war, the military generals in charge of it, a lot of them came from West Point and the Virginia Military Institute. I think the Citadel was around back then, but they were intellectuals. I mean, when the war broke out, they, had gone to college together and had fought in Indian wars and the Spanish-American War, with each other. And they kind of shook hands and said, some of it was, about, you know, statesmanship. They went for their state. Some of it was about, the ideology of it. And there was this mutual, hey, we got to get this done. I forget the two generals, but it was at Gettysburg. They were best friends. One was a Confederate, one was a Union. And I'm pretty sure they met up. They either met up or they exchanged letters talking about how they wanted this war to be over so they can be friends again. And so it was very easy for, militaries to get together because we didn't have, National Guards yet. It was, this is the 10th, Texas Brigade. This is the, 2nd Tennessee Volunteers. And it came from your state level where most of the people in your state either were for your state leaving or staying. And if they weren't for it, then they either sat on their farm and waited for, the bullets to stop flying, or, they migrated, either north or south. In today's politics, I think it's like 30% of California votes red. Texas is like 60-40. And it might even be, I think it's getting less and less of that. I think it's closer to like 55-45. Every single state, from an ideological standpoint, has people on both sides of the spectrum. Every single state, regardless of if you are on either side of the spectrum, you might sit in the middle. You might want to pull a Mel Gibson in The Patriot. You don't want to be involved in it. Till it affects your family, you just want to sit it out. Some people might believe in, one side's cause, but they also believe in the preservation of the Union. It's going to be a very messy situation. A lot of preppers, I preach it all the time, if you're a prepper, you tend to be, very libertarian minded. You want to take care of yourself, your family, and, you typically make small groups, of like-minded individuals. And it's the same on a political scale. There's no telling how many different factions this will create. There's no telling outside foreign interests involved in this. A lot of Europe wanted to support the Confederacy because that's how they were getting all of their raw materials. So there's no telling how it will play out. It's not going to be as simple. I also think it won't be as simple as, the capital gets taken, the strong point gets taken. I think it will be twice as long, if not 3 times as long, as the previous one because of, guerrilla warfare tactics, of just how vast the nation is and, how many players there are involved in it now. And so you might have a right-leaning group that's, more, wanting to stay neutral. They're only going to do anything if you mess with them. You might have a left-leaning authoritarian group that, at the same time that they're dealing with the right, they also want other left-leaning groups to bend the knee. There could be, anarchist group where it's like, look, There's a power struggle. There's this vacuum, and we want to fill it. If you're not with us, then you're against us. There's going to be those kind of people that, they live, out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, I don't care which side you're on, but if you mess with my stuff, my family, my livelihood, then I'm going to take an issue to that. There's the potential for hundreds, if not thousands, of minor groups. It also gets convoluted when it comes to, each governor technically has control of their National Guards. The president can federalize them. Who's going to listen to the president over the governor? Who's going to go AWOL and protect their family? Are there going to be minor military coups? There's so many variables in this that, for all we know, we could start fighting with each other, and Russia invades. Because we boast the largest navy, but one carrier goes AWOL. The captain says, neither of these groups, neither major group, we, think is correct, and they move on. These two carriers, they disagree with each other. The people on it trust their commanders, and they get in a fight. These military groups, dip and go back to their family and take care of them. Someone comes in, there's no telling how it's going to play out, because it's not just, one side and the other side. It's all of the different interest groups involved. There's the 15 or 20, different right-leaning groups of varying, degrees of center right, far right. Same thing with the left. And then you've got libertarian, and then you also got to think about, the pacifists, or the people that are just like, look, I'm not, working right now, which means I'm not getting paid, which means my family's not eating. I hate both of you. Just go back to some semblance of normal. And so there is no telling, when a conflict will start, because the other way you have to look at it is, if two sides are splitting, with our technology these days, if someone posted on a forum, like, hey, I think a civil war is starting, I'm going to have a town hall meeting in my town, a third of your town shows up and it's like, look, I think this stuff's about to go down. I think we should start, training together and kind of, making more of a real militia. And so now you've got, your town militia, or your county militia, your state militia. Some groups are more morally good than other groups. Some groups are about, results. Don't mess with us, or we're going to, blow you into oblivion. Other groups are, hey, this is our ideology, and they could, form up, get together. There's no telling how this is going to go down. I very much would like to take a Mel Gibson approach like he did in The Patriot. In hindsight, what he did was a good thing. But, what finally made him cross the line is he was wronged. And it's one of those, if the British won, they probably would have killed him, because he killed a bunch of officers and was a nuisance. Using a modern example, let's say a family is sitting there minding their own business, and some soldier comes in and shoots your kid. They say that he's spying for, this paramilitary group. On one hand, you can look at it and, if you believe the court system's still functioning, everything, then you can take it to court and try to win that way. On the other hand, there's a very real possibility that you'll end up joining that group now because you have a reason to hate, the government organization that shot your kid. And if that government is overthrown, nothing bad will probably happen to you. But, if you, start fighting and killing all the soldiers and your group loses and, they manage to capture you alive, they're going to charge you for it. And it's like, look, you killed X number of soldiers, we consider you a murderer. And they'll say, you were trying to do vigilante justice, and that's not acceptable. The old saying is history is written by the victor. So, there's no telling if, during the Trojan Wars, what started it, what atrocities, the United city-states did against Troy, which, from a historical standpoint, they raped and pillaged and destroyed the city, and that's what most historians can agree on, but it's not really documented that way because, the Trojans lost, so they're the evil people that were doing those things, and, wronged the king. I forget which king it was. But, the son, took the man's, wife to be, and he was wronged, and so, the Trojans are vilified. And so, in my opinion, and I've said it before, your own moral compass. If you've got a solid upbringing, then you know what to believe is right and wrong. You know what should be tolerated and what shouldn't, and you put your line in the sand. And if you follow your principles, take actions to prevent your line in the sand being crossed. But if your line in the sand is crossed and you sit there and do nothing, then you're a coward, you're weak, and you didn't believe in your principles anyway. If your line in the sand is crossed and you take action, regardless of what that is, then at least you stood up for your principles. That's why I think having a moral compass, pretty good thing to have. So, take this discussion, however you would like to, and stay vigilant. Pay attention to what's going on in the news. Pay attention to, what is being said and done to de-escalate, to compromise, help your side. So, if your principles, is getting closer and closer to the line in the sand being crossed, we've got the soap box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. Exhaust the first two. And, there's a lot of exhausting that you can do before it comes to, using the last one. But with that, what are your thoughts about what's playing out right now? Are we really close to it? Do you think it's, the news trying to drive up ratings, is when people are angry, they make more money because, you watch their stuff. And what are you actively doing to either prevent this from happening or mitigating the outfall when it does? Let me know in the comment section down below. And then lastly, like the video if you like our discussion today. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what I'm doing. And share the video with your friends or family if they'd benefit from our discussion today. Catch you in the next one.